Welcome back to Startup Equity Basics. This is section 6, where we're going to continue talking about counting equity, this time related to outstanding stock. Okay, so how is outstanding stock issued? How do you get outstanding stock? First, the board has to approve it. That's a requirement under the state statutes that the board approve the issuance of stock. Then the company and the purchaser engage in an agreement, a written agreement, normally called a stock purchase agreement, under which the agreement specifies the number of shares of stock that are being sold to the purchaser, the price being paid, and conditions and restrictions placed on the stock. And an important part of the stock purchase is that we specify the consideration. Consideration is the type of payment used for the stock. And under the state statutes, stock must be paid for with good consideration. So, what is good consideration? What can you use to pay for stock? Well, cash is always good. We're happy to get cash. And when we say cash, we generally use the term to mean cash or equivalent. A check, a wire transfer, in today's day and age, possibly Bitcoin, would be used as cash for stock. Another form of good consideration is property. Tangible property, like your car or your house or some piece of furniture, can be used to buy the stock. Also intangible property, a software program or a logo or a design, which is intangible but valuable property that can be in fact transferred into the company in exchange for the shares. Another form of good consideration is past services. These are services that have already been rendered to the corporation. Maybe they weren't entirely paid for. Maybe the value of the services is more than whatever compensation was paid, and so the remainder is being paid for with stock. What is not good consideration are future services. You cannot use future services as payment for the stock. So a stock purchase agreement that reads something like this stock is being issued to the purchaser in exchange for services to be rendered. That is not a valid issuance. That is services that have not yet been rendered, so they're future services, and that simply is not good consideration. That issuance would be invalid. If you had that the stock is being issued to the purchaser in exchange for services already rendered, that's fine, that's past services, but not future services. Just a quick word about par value. Sometimes stock is authorized with a par value. This is a arbitrary, somewhat arbitrary, sort of nominal value for the stock. It does not represent the fair market value or the actual value of the stock. It can be zero, and if it's not stated in the charter, in our prior example of authorized stock, and the language in the charter said nothing about a par value, that means that it's defaulted to be zero. But you can state in the charter that the stock has a par value of a dollar per share or $0.001 per share. And to the extent that you do state a par value in the charter, then that par value must be paid for. That's a minimum price. So you can sell the stock at whatever price the parties negotiate, and as long as it's paid for with good consideration, that would be valid. But if a par value is stated in the charter, then you cannot sell the stock for less than that par value. Okay, let's look at capitalization, and in particular how we express capitalization. So capitalization is expressed in what we call a cap table, which is a layout showing who owns what equity. So we'll look at an example of that. Let's assume we've authorized 10 million shares of common stock and we have issued to each of two founders 2 million shares each. Each founder was issued 2 million shares. So what is the outstanding stock in this example? Total outstanding is 4 million shares. What's left in the treasury that the board could issue, what's left as treasury shares, what's left is 6 million shares. What percent of the company do these founders own? And remember, we have authorized 10 million shares. Each founder owns 2 million, so a total of 4 million. Together, what percent of the company do they own? If you say 40%, that's wrong. Wrong answer. Why? Because they own 100%. Why do they own 100%? How do we derive that? And the reason is because ownership of stock is not based on the amount of authorized stock. It is based on outstanding stock. To own the stock, it has to be issued. So when we're looking at percentage of the company that a holder or stockholders hold, that percentage is based on what has been issued, what is outstanding. All right, let's look at an addition to the example. We're going to add a third founder. We're issuing to this third founder 1 million shares. So where we are now, we have authorized 10 million shares. Our first founder has 2 million, second founder has 2 million, our new founder has 1 million. What's the company capitalization? What does that look like? And what's left in the treasury? So at this point, we're going to show how a cap table is laid out and depict the issuances, depict the ownership in a cap table. And this is what it looks like. What we're showing here is a column of the shareholders. Who are the shareholders? The number of shares that they each own, and we're showing the total, which shows us the total outstanding, and then the percent of the company that they each own. So because we have a total of 5 million shares that have been issued, the first founder with 2 million owns 40% of the company. Same for the second founder. The third founder with 1 million owns 20% of the company, for a total of 100% of the company outstanding. What's left in our treasury? We had 10 million authorized. We've issued 5 million, so we have 5 million in the treasury remaining available. Okay, so what have we learned in this section? First of all, stock issuances must be both approved by the board and paid for with good consideration. Cash is good. Property is good. Past services is good. Future services is not good. Ownership is based on outstanding stock. Percent ownership of a company is based on what's issued and outstanding. It is not based on authorized stock. Okay, that is the end of section 6.